Former Toronto Raptor Jalen Harris has been reinstated into the NBA, and this could lead to some difficult decisions having to be made for Masai Ujiri and the Toronto Raptors coming into this year, as the Raptors maintain his rights, assuming he doesn't sign with another team, assuming we bring him back, but we also have a full roster going into training camp. So, interesting stuff. I'll break all that stuff down. Additionally, we have some other Raptors news, including a minor Kevin Durant update, as well as Pascal Siakam clamping up Paul George at some Rico Hines runs. So, fun stuff to dive into. Without further ado, let's dive straight into it. Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, breaking down the latest Toronto Raptors news. And if you guys want to stay up to date on all of the latest Raptors news, hit that sub button. It helps us out big time, right? You know, you've been watching the vids over the summer, you want to stay up to date heading into the regular season, I'd greatly appreciate hitting that subscribe button. But we're diving into first, Jalen Harris. Obviously a Raptors fan favorite. It feels like every video we get a couple people commenting about the impact that he could have on this team coming into this year, obviously with the scoring ability, and people look back to that one game where he dominated against the Dallas Mavericks in his hometown. But Harris has been reinstated, and Bloomberg did a really good job at summarizing everything, saying that the NBA and NBAPA has granted Jalen Harris reinstatement following his 1-year suspension after violating the league's anti-drug program, and the Raptors currently have his rights in restricted free agency. Bloomberg went on to say that the Raptors can retain Harris if they choose, either by signing him outright or matching any offer that he receives from any other team. But they'll have to open a roster spot in order to do so. So once they make Koloko signing official, which is expected to be soon, their training camp roster will be up to 20. So Bloomberg obviously stated out, clarified everything that's going on. The Raptors have Jalen Harris's rights, but he's currently not on the roster. I've seen a couple of people shoot me messages saying, how do we bring in Jalen Harris? How is he here? I thought the roster was full. No, he has not been signed to a contract, but we do have his rights. He's currently a restricted free agent for the Toronto Raptors. Now, what does that mean? That means if Jalen Harris receives a contract offer from any other team, the Phoenix Suns, the Charlotte Hornets, whoever, the Raptors have the opportunity to match that contract and bring him in without the choice of Jalen Harris. So Toronto essentially dictates this guy's future if they choose to bring him in. However, he's not under contract yet, and in order for the Raptors to actually sign him just for training camp, much less the actual regular season, they'll have to end up cutting one of the players that we've been discussing this entire offseason, whether it be, you know, some of the unguaranteed guys in Delano Banton, Justin Champagnie, or DJ Wilson, or one of our guaranteed players, which could be Juancho Hernan-Gomez, Svi Mykhailiuk, or if you want to get crazy, you could even bring up Malachi Flynn in that name. So that's what the Raptors would have to do in order to bring Jalen Harris back. And I've heard a lot of people say in comments on Reddit and stuff, you know, there's a bunch of people that think he's just not that strong of a player. He struggled in Europe, and that's sort of what I maintain. But you look at his stats from last season. You look at how, you know, he had an impact in very small sample size, but 7.4 points per game. And this is the season prior to last season. I apologize, the year we were in Tampa, but 1.5 rebounds, 1.3 assists, and then you look at the shooting, 47% from the three-point line. People say, 47% three-point shooter? That's better than Matty Ice. That's better than Mr. 99%. But, you know, in 13 games, Jalen Harris wasn't shooting the highest of volumes by any means. So I take that three-point statistic with a grain of salt. He was mid-30s when he played in Europe last year and hasn't been setting the world on fire, as you might expect for an NBA player playing in the CEBL. He hasn't been just that substantially better than everyone else. He's been one of the better players in the league, don't get me wrong, but he hasn't just been absolutely dominating that league. So, you know, the Shooting Stars are a pretty good squad, though, so I can't deny that fact. But it makes sense why Nick Nurse was scouting him in a previous video I broke down, watching one of his games, because the Raptors do have to make a decision if they want to let go, because we sacrificed, I guess it's considered a sacrifice given the fact he didn't play, but we used a second-round pick on him just 2 drafts ago, right? And the Raptors, you know, they make a habit of picking the right guys in late rounds, and he has shown potential. But do I think that he'll actually make the roster? Do I think he really has a shot at making it over the likes of a Justin Champagnie, Copy, a Delano Banton, as I mentioned, or a DJ Wilson? I think just given the roster makeup, the roster construction, if the Raptors wanted to give him a fair chance, a fair look, I could see them taking away DJ Wilson's contract and throw in Jalen Harris in and say, okay, you're back with the big dogs. You really got to show out during preseason. You got to ball out and say, we can't not pick you, right? He'd have to be that good in order to come in. And I don't expect that to happen. I think the Raptors are very high on DJ Wilson, right? They had him as 25, 26 years old playing on our summer league team. So I expect them to at least give Wilson the training camp invite. And there's a 0% chance he's making over Delano Banton or Justin Champagnie. It's just not going to happen. And given the fact that we just cut Armani Brooks, who's pretty well the same style of player, the same level of player, and he didn't even get a shot to run things out in training camp. I don't know. And the other guy that we signed, maybe he gets cut. Gabe. It's slipping my brain at this point. I have to look back to that. Maybe he gets cut and Jalen Harris comes in, have a bigger name during training camp and all that sort of stuff. But I think the Raptors are just going to be set. And if Jalen Harris ends up signing a contract with another team, Raptors will just let him walk. Now, obviously, his career was short with the Raptors, and it's this, and it still could potentially come back to form, but we'll see what ends up happening. But he'll forever have that great meme where he said, "We the North," in Tampa, rocking out there. So shout out Jalen Harris. Hopefully he succeeds. I'm happy to see him back into the league, being healthy, doing everything. He said it was a complete mistake why he was unreinstated. He took a supplement he didn't know was banned, but regardless, I'm happy Jalen Harris is back in the league. So, or has the opportunity to come back to the league. So shout out to Jalen Harris. The next thing we're discussing, the next thing we're diving into is the Toronto Raptors season opening matchup is revealed. Now, I thought the schedule was actually getting released today. I mixed up my days. It turns out Wednesday we'll get a full breakdown on all of the Toronto Raptors schedule and all the schedule across the league. I broke down the previous video how the Raptors are not playing on Christmas, but we do get an opening night, or we found out our opening night. Obviously, every team is going to have a opening night, but the NBA release its full schedule tomorrow, as I just mentioned. But the Cavs will end up opening the season against the Toronto Raptors on the road on October 19th, which feels earlier than usual. I remember games coming back out back in the day. It felt like it was closer to Halloween or whatever, but we're getting a little bit of Raptors action. About 2 months from now, about 2 months from today. Obviously, training camp will be coming along mid-September, beginning of October. We'll have preseason, all that stuff, but the NBA is just around the corner, and we get to start off the season against the Cleveland Cavaliers, who last year we had a little bit of a rivalry with throughout the middle of the season. We're kind of jockeying for position, through that second thirds, in the final third of the season, the Raptors really made their push atop the conference. The Cavs were one of those top 4 seeds for a long stretch of the regular season last year. So it'll be a fun matchup to see the Raptors, two young up-and-coming teams facing off on opening night. But we'll have more to sink our teeth into when the full schedule comes out. The next thing we're discussing, the next thing we're breaking down is Pascal Siakam absolutely putting the clamps onto Paul George, and he also received a good bit of respect at this Rico Hines runs as well. I'll play the clip of him showing who the real playoff P, who the true Rico Hines P is there, right? Paul George trying to do these spins, trying to get the ball around Siakam. He's tipping that ball away, obviously playing some elite D. Paul George is mad. He's yapping at people saying, "Oh, what is this? Pascal Siakam clamped me up." They ended up checking it, and then the video went on to show Patrick Beverley kind of roasting, but then Patrick Beverley also had an interesting quote to end off this Rico Hines run, or a message during the Rico Hines run, just saying that everybody here ain't Paul George. They ain't Siakam. Defensively, everybody trotting back, not running back. How good do you want to be? Find your niche, find your role. But essentially, he's saying, obviously Paul George, all-NBA guy, and I've made it known. I like my Pascal Siakam spicy P. I like my playoff P on the Toronto Raptors, and I do that playoff P in the Clippers. Kawhi made a mistake going down there, but Patrick Beverley, it's cool, especially where he was Paul George's teammate and stuff, just to give credit where it's due to Pascal Siakam. Obviously, everyone knows he deserves that star-level praise, but from a guy like Patrick Beverley, who I wouldn't mind ending up with the Raptors if they ended up trading for him, being one of those spark plugs off the bench, getting that credit there. I've seen a couple people also mention that they think, oh, maybe Patrick Beverley's trying to finesse his way to the Raptors or Clippers at this point. I don't know about that front, but it's nice to see Pascal Siakam already have that established star reputation amongst the players across the NBA, because it seemed like it took him a little bit longer time to earn that respect than a lot of usual younger stars throughout the league. So shout out to Pascal Siakam. But the final thing I want to bring up is a minor Kevin Durant trade update. This is sort of building off of the video I made yesterday. Obviously, a report KD has demanded a trade this at the beginning of the summer. He's been attached to the Toronto Raptors the entire year. But then yesterday, we had a bigger report come out, or a more jarring report, a more shocking report, I guess you want to say, coming from Mark Stein, that KD could be potentially retiring if he's not traded from the Brooklyn Nets. Now, I said in that video that's lucrative. If, this was obviously leaked by someone, and, it's apparently it's an NBA executive, maybe it's just an expectation, but all these things get fed to reporters in order to change the narratives behind the scenes. It's just how the NBA works, and we're just here soaking it all in, got to react to it all. But I said in the video, there's no way KD's probably retiring. Like, I'd be absolutely shocked if that were the case to happen, but apparently he's going to try and cause a ruckus to get his way out of Brooklyn. Now, the updated report is coming from the horse's mouth himself, Kevin Durant, right, saying, I'm not retiring. I plan on staying in the league for a very long time. And he's just addressing those retirement rumors, and people are going at him for saying, oh, why aren't you addressing the trade rumors, but you're saying this? But and he's making some funny memes back. But don't expect Kevin Durant to retire, even if he does sit out next year's season with the Brooklyn Nets and starts to cause a ruckus, as the report has said. But that's essentially it for the news today. You guys are the best for making it this far. Check out the Instagram, the TikTok, the Twitter, all that cool stuff. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you made it this far, definitely hit that subscribe button. It helps us out big time. But you guys are the best. I'm signing out. Cheers.